I like that. That's not a bad theory.
Yeah.
Let's bring in someone special, Dave. You want to bring in our guest here? See if our guy's on the line here?
Who? Big Play Joe?
I'd like to.
Oh, hell yeah. Let me give a hell yeah for Big Play Joe.
Give me a hell yeah. What?
So on the line from BigPlay.com, our draft guru, Mr. Joe Draime. What's up, Big Play Joe? How we doing?
We're doing great. How are you guys?
We're
Good,
fantastic.
Good, my man. Big time of the year here, Joe.
Yes, most certainly is. Almost a week away.
Yeah.
8 days.
Yeah, man,
Days.
it's coming up quickly. So let's get right into it, my man. You still have Kyler Murray as the number 1 pick overall. Any reason to think this changes before the draft?
I can't see them changing it because that would, them changing it would rely on the Cardinals front office to be somewhat competent.
Oh! That's fair.
Yep.
Yeah, that's true. What do you think his ceiling is and his floor as an NFL QB? Give me a comparison. Who do you think Kyler Murray's like?
His ceiling's probably, by my estimation, just from watching the tape, like a diet Russell Wilson. It's the most obvious comparison in terms of the playing style. But there's a really key difference nobody's really discussing. Murray's build is much slighter than Wilson's is. When you look at Wilson's legs, they're tree trunks. And then when you watch Murray on the field, he looks legitimately small. And I'm at the point where I'm kind of tired of hearing how everybody's excited that he's measuring in at a legitimate 5'10", where they're trying to argue the market case of guys like Wilson and Baker Mayfield and Drew Brees to justify taking somebody that's undersized.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, Kyler Murray, when he weighed in, I believe he weighed more than Russell Wilson did at his pro day,
right?
Which is absolutely insane. You look at those builds; they're completely different. But I mean, you look at a guy like Josh Rosen. You talked about it. The GM for Arizona. Do you think he's going to struggle with taking Kyler Murray when he just picked up Josh Rosen? Do you think Josh Rosen's a failure already with that team?
I don't think he's a failure because of Josh Rosen. I think the Cardinals view Josh Rosen as a failure because they completely failed to surround him and put him in a good situation. They fired his head coach. The offensive line was a mess. David Johnson never looked quite right. His receivers left a lot to be desired. And now they're hiring Cliff Kingsbury as their head coach, who went 35-40 at Texas Tech.
But he's so handsome, Joe. Come on now. So, Joe, last year the QB position was the sexy position. It drew the most interest. What position group in this year's draft really has you excited?
It's the D-line group, without doubt. It's the best and the deepest, I think, that I've seen it in a long, long time. And I looked at it, and I'm counting at least 5 potential All-Pros with Nick Bosa, Quinnen Williams, Josh Allen, Ed Oliver, and Christian Wilkins. And then you throw in the physical freaks like Montez Sweat and Brian Burns, who are still raw but could develop into really, really elite players.
Yeah, that's true. Look at the Raiders. So, obviously no one has any idea what's actually going to happen on draft night. Someone always throws a wrench in there. Talking about wrenches and being crazy, Mr. John Gruden and the Raiders. They've got 2 first-round picks. They've been erratic in the past. What do you think they're going to do? Do you think there's any chance of them trading up, trading down, and completely mess up your draft board there?
I think there's a huge chance that they do, in fact, trade up or trade down, but I think what Gruden's ultimately going to end up doing is that he is going to stay pat and take that edge rusher, whether it's Sweat or if it's Josh Allen. But at the same time, it is Gruden, it is the Raiders. They like to make a splash, and the only way, going back to the first question, I could see the Cardinals not taking Murray is if the Raiders traded up to the number 1 spot to go get him.
Wow.
Which could happen.
That could happen.
That
yep,
could happen.
Gruden likes him.
So let's talk quarterbacks real quick. We're just talking Kyler Murray. Give me your top 3. So you got Murray, Haskins, probably Drew Lock. Most people have in the top 3. Power rank those guys for us.
All right, so my top 3 is actually a little bit different. Mine goes Dwayne Haskins, Kyler Murray, and then I have Daniel Jones as my 3rd and Drew Lock as my 4th.
Oh, the Dookie. Yes, okay.
He's a good player.
Joe, I've seen a couple mock drafts out there recently that have Dwayne Haskins falling below Drew Lock, falling behind Daniel Jones. They have them almost going to the 2nd round. Why do you think that is?
I think what a lot of it has to do with the fact that he is a first-year starter, and there is still this stigma around quarterbacks produced by the Urban Meyer system that should be in play here, that's scaring a lot of GMs off. And also, for whatever reason, some people are putting a bunch of stock into Haskins' 40 time, which I don't really understand that.
That's got to be Colin Cowherd.
Right. Well, according to Stephen A. Smith, he's more of a running quarterback, Dave. So maybe it's those comments. So, Joe, give us what are some guys you think are being undervalued here? Give us some of your better sleepers right now.
Ooh.
Right off the bat, Riley Ridley out of Georgia. He has a lot of traits that remind me of Michael Thomas. He runs very sharp routes, has good hands, has excellent size. He's not the fastest guy in the world, but he's going to lower his head and keep the chains moving, which is what you need out of a number 1 receiver. And then I have James Williams, who's a running back out of Washington State. He's a player that's in the mold of a Duke Johnson-type back, where he's a slashing runner who's going to catch a lot of balls out of the backfield. And then last but certainly not least, I have Terry McLaurin out of Ohio State, who is, in my opinion, incredibly underrated even in college. He has great speed. He runs in the 4.3s. He runs excellent routes. He's great hands. And he's also the best gunner in college football when it comes to punt coverage. He's a guy that's going to make some team in the NFL very, very happy.
Love it. Joe, overall draft thoughts on what team has to get this draft right going into next year? Who has the most riding on this?
When you have the number 1 overall pick and a new coach, you have to get the number 1 overall pick right. So the Arizona Cardinals, without question, are under the gun. If they don't get this right, that's what's going to get everybody fired. Personally,
finally,
I would take Nick
Steve Wilkes will be clapping.
Yeah. Oh God.
And then also, if the Raiders, you can't afford to whiff on those first rounders when you dealt Khalil Mack to get one of them, and when you're trying to rebuild with a new head coach that you signed for 10 years. And then finally, the Giants really have to make a splash here. They've already messed up by giving Eli Manning more shelf life, and Gettleman's going to be under tremendous pressure to get this draft right.
So, Joe, I wouldn't let you get off the podcast without talking Browns for a second, as Jay shakes his head as the Steelers fan. What are the Browns going to do? Are we trading up into the first round? And if we don't, who do we take in round 2?
All right. So here's what I think Dorsey wants to get back in the first round, but he's not going to overpay to do it. So I see the most likely scenario being him staying pat in the second round, and I think he will take whichever one of the premier DBs falls into the second round, whether that be Byron Murphy. There's been talks of DeAndre Baker falling in the second round. You might even trade up to the early part of the second round to make sure he gets one of those, because that's going to be a lot less expensive than trading up into the first.
Right.
I love it, man. Go give Big Play Joe. Go read his stuff at BigPlay.com. Some of my favorite stuff on the entire website. All of the scouting reports are as legit as they come. Joe, where can the guys find you on Twitter?
Oh, they can find me at J_Draime10.
Love it. Joe,
Perfect.
Thanks for joining the Big Play Podcast. Great stuff, my man.
Thank you for having me, guys.
All right, we'll talk to you soon. That was my buddy Joe Draime. That's a loud crowd.
Well, the crowd loves him, man. Joe's first appearance. Love
He
it.
killed it. Whoops.
Whoa.
He crushed it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's keep it going,
Let's keep
my
it
man.
going, yeah.